So before I discuss what happened during this specific day on my trip in Panama, I must highlight the fact that you guys, those of you that watch me consistently, hopefully you recognize that I tend to try to be a positive person. I tend to try to highlight the positives in anything that I'm doing. Even if I do a video that's negative, or even if I talk about something that's negative, I typically like to counterbalance that with something that's positive. And that's not to be politically correct. That's not for any kind of, it's not brown nosing in any way. It's just because that's how I view the world. There's positive and negative. And so before I get into this story time, I need to clarify that this is not intended to be a negative. What I prioritize over positivity or negativity is honesty. And again, typically, if I'm prioritizing honesty, there's positives and negatives with anything. And so again, in telling the story, I'm prioritizing honesty over any kind of perception or anything like that. I'm just being honest, and the reason for that is because I would have appreciated an honest video like this from someone else before I decided to go to the area that I went to and do what I'm going to discuss in this video. So I spent 5 total days in Panama during my most recent trip. I got there on a Saturday morning or Saturday midday. Yeah, around like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. I can't remember when I got there, but I got there on a Saturday, and I left on a Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I left on a Wednesday. So that Tuesday, the day before I left, I decided I wanted to switch up my trip. So most of the trip in Panama was spent in Panama City. I'm not sure the order at which I'll release this video compared with my comprehensive review of my trip to Panama. But if this is before, regardless, I noticed when I was in Panama, so depending on when this comes out, this will give you a heads up into what I'll discuss in the future, or it will reiterate what I've already discussed. But I noticed that the areas that are recommended for tourists to stay in are typically areas that have vibes that I don't like. And again, if this video comes out before my comprehensive video, just leave it there, and I'll explain more in an upcoming video. And if this comes out after, you guys know what I'm referring to when I say I don't like to stay in traditionally in neighborhoods that are recommended for tourists. There's a reason for that. So long story short, I was getting a vibe that was okay, but when I would branch out of the city, I noticed that I liked Panama a lot more. And so I decided, after consulting, quote unquote, with a taxi driver, talking with a taxi driver, not a taxi driver, I never took a taxi. After talking with an Uber driver, every Uber I got in, I was just like, hey, what do you recommend that I do in Panama? Like, what are some cool things to do? And like 2 people recommended, they were like, yeah, you should go to Colón. Deberías de ir a Colón. And I was like, Colón, like, what is there to do in Colón? And so they start telling me about the area. They tell me that there's this zone where you can buy things without taxes. You can go shopping. You can see different beaches. They did mention, because they saw me, and they were like, yeah, there's an Afro-Panamanian population out there that's pretty large, and so you might enjoy that. There are a lot of Afro-Panamanian descendants and like Jamaican and Chilean descendants, and you might enjoy the area. So I'd considered, on my second to last day, again that Tuesday, I was stuck between a city called Penonomé, Chiriquí, and Panama. Now, here's what happened. So again, long story short, I'm gonna go to one of these little towns just to see if there's a different vibe outside of the main touristic area in the city. I just wanted to see a different part of the country, and I felt empowered to do that because I was managing the situation perfectly with Spanish. Like, I was communicating as if I had landed in Boston, or these are places that I've gone to in the past years, or Los Angeles, where I'm not from there, but I can figure out how to get around because I speak the language and I can ask and consult with people. So long story short, I go to this main bus station in Panama City, and I see a bus to Penonomé, I see a bus to Colón, and I see a bus to Chiriquí. And so I ask all of the attendants, like, yeah, when is the next bus gonna leave? How much does it cost? And it turned out that the next bus to leave, that was closest to the time at which I got there, was to leave to Colón. Now, this is bad planning. This is not how you want to do a trip. And the reason that this is bad planning is because I got to this bus station maybe at 1 o'clock, okay? This is a trip that you ideally want to wake up for. You get there at like 9, get to the bus station at 9, get on the bus. The journey to Cologne is like an hour and a half. And so you get to you get to Cologne at like 10:30. You can enjoy its daylight. You can see different parts of the city. and then come back and be home before nightfall. I'm walking into the bus station because this was poorly planned because I had done something this morning. That Tuesday morning, I had done something different. I walk in at 1 o'clock. I don't get on the bus, guys, until maybe like 2 o'clock because I didn't have cash. You have to pay for that stuff in cash. I missed the bus that was leaving like at like 1:15, I think. And the buses, from what I remember, come every 45 minutes. And so I maybe got on the bus, the next bus at like 1:45, but we didn't leave until 2 o'clock. So again, long story short, I make the decision to go to Colón. Now, I'm not Panamanian. I'm not from Cologne. I can't speak to what the reputation of that area is. I can, however, speak to what people told me, okay? A lot of Panamanians told me like, ten cuidado en Cologne. You have to be careful in Cologne. Cologne could be dangerous. And I know, guys, everywhere can be dangerous and every place has its good and bad parts. So in retrospect, I now know that where I decided to go to in Cologne it wasn't the wisest decision to go there. Cologne, even though it has a bad reputation in some sense, it has beautiful areas that are safe, that are super touristic, and I saw some of those areas as well. I did not stay in that version of Cologne. I stayed in the area in Cologne that gives Cologne its unfortunate negative reputation in the country. Am I making sense? I'm not trying to insult the area. Because again, every area has nice and bad areas. If you come to Atlanta and stay in certain neighborhoods, you're gonna think that this city is dangerous. If you stay 15, 20, 30 minutes away, you can think that this is the best city in the world. So I'm just saying, I arrived because of poor planning in the worst version of Cologne, if that makes any sense. And so long story short, let's get me back to the bus. I get on the bus, I'm waiting on the bus, and I have an empty seat next to me. I'm maybe like the second to last person with an empty seat because I'm in the back of the bus. And this gentleman who probably was maybe in between 45 to 60 years old. I know that's a wide age range, but between 45 to 60 years old, una barriga grande, like a big pot belly. Nothing's wrong with having a pot belly. I'm just describing the guy. Bald guy, no teeth in his mouth here, but super nice gentleman, like super cool, super nice. He comes and asks me if he can sit next to me. No problem. He sits next to me, and he takes out his phone, and he starts talking. And he's like, and I'm listening because I'm just trying to, get my wits about me. Again, in the back of my mind, I'm like, is this a wise decision? Is going to Cologne at 1 o'clock in the middle of the day, when it has a reputation of not being the safest area, is it a smart decision? Especially when I'm not the type of traveler that wants to go to anybody's hood or wants to see el bajo mundo. Like, I'm not like that. Like, I don't want to stay in the super bougie rich areas either. I want to be around normal people that just work and live their lives. I don't want to be in anybody's hood in Georgia, let alone in another country. And so that was not my intention with this trip. I just wanted to explore and see something different. And I had been recommended Cologne. Again, I heard that it had a bad reputation, but I also thought like, hey, Panama City is so safe. Maybe these people that are telling me that it's dangerous, their perception of safety is a little skewed in the positive direction, where they just are so accustomed to living in a super safe society where they can take out their phones and they can walk around without a care in the world. So maybe they're over-exaggerating. Again, that's what I thought. So either way, back to the bus. I'm on the bus. This guy's name is Pedro. And let me say this, guys. If anything that I say here you don't believe me, or you think I'm exaggerating, or you think I'm putting extras on the story, I'm not going to post it on YouTube because that would be unfair to anybody that was involved in this situation. But everything that I'm saying I can verify through pictures on WhatsApp. I can verify through audio messages on WhatsApp, through voice messages on WhatsApp. I can verify all of this stuff that I'm going to say. So either way, Pedro and I are on the bus, or we're all on the bus, and the bus gets going. Guys, Panama is a beautiful country. Again, the journey to Colón is like an hour and a half with the stops, and I'm looking out of the window, I'm like, oh my gosh, this country is picturesque. Like, this country, los paisajes son maravillosos, like amazing, asombrado. O sea, they're just amazing. Like, it was an amazing sight just to be able to, look out of my window and see the landscapes of Panama. About an hour into the trip, Pedro, okay, let me go back again. I know I'm rambling a little bit. Whatever. I know somebody's like, get to the point. Guys, this is me. Whatever. So on the journey, right? Maybe like 45 minutes to an hour in. No. Let me backtrack. Again. Pedro, from the beginning of the trip, is on his phone on WhatsApp sending messages, and Pedro keeps saying this in a very thick Caribbean accent, which led me to believe that Pedro might have been Dominican because Pedro was saying this. Sí, manito, te llamo pues. Cuando vuelva a Panamá, cuando vaya a Panamá, te vuelvo, oíste, te vuelvo, te llamo. If you don't know what I'm saying, Pedro on his through his WhatsApp messages is telling someone, when I come back to Panama, when I get back to Panama, I'll call you. Sí, yo fui para hacer un trabajito y vuelvo pues. He's like, I left to do a job, but I'm coming back. Te llamo cuando vuelva. I'll call you back when I get back. And he keeps saying like, when I get back from Panama, when I get back from Panama. And he's like, cuando vaya de Panamá, yo estoy en caminos desde Panamá. And so I'm like, what is he talking about? Like, why is he saying he's leaving Panama? Is this guy not Panamanian? And so I start to believe that this guy is Dominican. Again, I have a picture of Pedro. I'm not going to post a picture of Pedro on the internet. But again, maybe in this group that I create, and I'm working on that, I'll talk about that at the end of the video. Maybe I'll, give you all of the details on this and show you pictures and everything. But either way, I'm like, what is Pedro talking about? I don't know his name at this point, but I'm like, what is this guy talking about? Is he a foreigner? Like, is he just coming to work in Panama? Because at this point, I'd met a lot of people in Panama that weren't Panamanian, Colombians, Venezuelans, Costa Ricans, Nicaraguans, Dominicans. I had met a lot of people from other countries. And so I'm like, okay, this guy's Dominican sitting next to me. Pedro, as the trip progresses, starts to ask me questions. He starts to talk to me. He's asking me things, and I'm responding as best as I can, putting a little extra on my accent so that he does not know that I'm an American, because I don't care how well I speak Spanish. I do have an accent, and they can tell. And the last thing that I want is that if I'm going to an area that is kind of caliente, a little possibly dangerous, I don't want the bus to start listening to our conversations and me saying, yo soy de Estados Unidos. And then everybody look back, and then now there's like gringo on the back of the bus going to Cologne. What could this be, Again, not trying to be over paranoid, but I'm just saying I don't want that attention. And so he keeps asking me questions and I'm responding, but then he finally asks me something that was specific to Cologne. And again, keep in mind, I'm thinking this guy's Dominican at this point. So he's asking me a question that's like specific about Cologne. Like, he asked me, like, do you know this thing about Cologne? Or like, do you know where I can go to get this in Cologne? I'm like, yo no sé, yo no soy de aquí. And Pedro's eyes kind of get wide. He's like, usted no es de aquí. Usted no es colonicense. I think he said, like, usted no es colonicense. He's like, basically, you're not one of the people from Cologne. I was like, no soy de aquí. ¿En serio? O sea, ¿te pareces a uno de ellos? He's like, you look like one of them. You look like you're from Cologne. I'm like, no, I'm not from Cologne. Entonces, ¿usted de dónde es? And so he asked me, so where are you from? I am not about to say I'm American. So I'm sorry to my Jamaicans. I'm sorry that I had to take your identity here. But it was convenient to do this, to take, not identity, your nationality here. But I said, yo soy de Jamaica, soy jamaiquino. And he's like, bueno. So again, I tell him I'm Jamaican. He's like, bueno. ¿Usted por qué vienes aquí? He's like, why are you coming here? Like, why are you coming here? I'm like, para. I really said this. I didn't say para. Again, I'm putting that accent. I'm like, para conocer nada más, para conocer esta parte del país. And he's like, en serio, pero a esta hora? He's like, at this time, why? Like, why are you coming to Cologne at this time? I'm like, just to explore, to eat a little bit, to go around. He's like, and he basically, I can see the look of concern on his eyes. And again, at this point, I'm thinking he's Dominican. So I ask him, like, where are you from? He's like, soy de Colón. I'm from out there. I don't live in the city center, but I'm from out there, a little bit away from the center of Colón. And Pedro proceeds to tell me, like, this is not a wise decision that you just made here. You're about to go to the center of Colón, which is not necessarily dangerous. It's not like something's gonna happen to you. You look like you're from out there, is what he's telling me. But he's like, I'm from out there, and I know if people find out that you're not from out there, again, this whole time he's thinking I'm Jamaican. He doesn't even know that he has a gringo sitting next to him. He tells me, he's like, yeah, if some people out here, if you go down the wrong street and somebody finds out you're not from out there, te pueden robar, te pueden quitar todas las pertenencias. He's like, they can rob you, they can take all of your belongings. And I sit there and tell Pedro, because I don't know Pedro at this point, I don't know his intentions. I tell him like, yeah, well, I only have $40. And he was like, usted cree que la gente de allá es estúpida? Ellos saben que tienes tarjeta, que andas con tarjeta. He's like, you think they're stupid out there? They know you have a credit card. He's like, you have a credit card, don't you? You have a card on you, don't you? I was like, yeah, I do. And so Pedro proceeds to tell me like, yeah, man, you don't need to be, this wasn't a wise decision. He was like, if you want to come out to Cologne by yourself, what you would probably want to do is come in the morning, go to the trade-free zone, like the touristic parts of that region. You don't want to go to the center of Cologne at what now is around like 2:30, 3 o'clock is when we'll probably get there after making all these stops. And he says the reason for that is because by the time you eat, walk around a little bit, the sun's gonna start going down at like 5:30, 6 o'clock, and the sun goes down out there in Panama around that time. He's like, I promise you, you do not want to be walking around the streets in the center of Cologne at night by yourself with a camera in your book bag. He finds out I have a camera. Your credit card, being a tourist. This is not something that a tourist should be doing on a whim. Okay, and so I'm like, I literally tell him like, Pedro, me estás asustando. He's like, no, tranquilo, todo bien. Puede que nada te pase. He's like, it could be that nothing happens to you. But again, if they find out you're not from out there, the wrong character finds that out, you're gonna get robbed. This is what he tells me. And again, I'm not a Panamanians. This is a Panamanian telling me this. I'm not making this up. This is not paranoia. Those of you that are of Panamanian descent, this is not paranoia. I wanted to go to Cologne with no problem. I would have gone by myself and just walked around, but he again tells me like this is not wise. And Pedro, again, I can tell Pedro is metido en la cultura allá. Muy metido. Like he's very plugged into the culture out there. And so I tell Pedro, I'm like, Pedro, me estás asustando. O sea, entonces, ¿qué debería hacer? ¿Qué debería hacer yo? And he's like, no, tranquilo. He's like, chill, no, you'll be fine. He even pulls out $3,000 from his pocket. And he's like, look, I even have $3,000 in my pocket. So I'm going to be walking around carefully, but I know people out there. And like, nobody's going to mess with me because I know people in Cologne. Like, so I'm even, going to have to be careful walking around. But he's like, as a tourist, as a foreigner, it can be dangerous. And so here's what Pedro says. Pedro says, when we get off this bus, when we get to, cause guys, I don't even know what bus stop to get off on. This is idiocy. The decision that I made here was dumb. I don't even know where the final stop for Cologne is. Like, I don't know. I see that the bus is getting emptier and emptier to the point where there's just like 4 of us on there. And it's me, Pedro, and 2 other people in the front. Luckily, I crossed paths with Pedro because he told me where the Cologne bus stop was. Because again, the bus is emptying. I probably, if I did not have him there, I would have gotten off of the bus at the wrong stop, maybe a stop or 2 before we got to Cologne, the center of Cologne. So long story short, he tells me when we get to Cologne, get off with me. I'm gonna call us a taxi immediately. And he's like, what do you want to do? I'm like, yeah, I want to eat. I want to explore a little bit, just see what the vibe is like. And then I plan on coming back to Panama City tonight. Pedro tells me like, look, when we get off this bus, I'm gonna take you somewhere to eat, and not take me literally, but call a taxi, and it's gonna take us to this little neighborhood seafood place. We're gonna eat there, and then Pedro proceeds to tell me that he has something to do, so he cannot accompany me on this entire trip. He's like, I would like to accompany you, but I have things to do. My wife is waiting on me, my girl is waiting on me, or whatever. I forgot what he said. So I know he said he had to meet up with a friend. So he's like, look, I can't wait for you. I can't sit here and wait for you. So here's what I recommend. Pedro tells me his recommendation. I'll take you to this food restaurant. After that, there is a hotel in the center of Cologne that I think would be safe for you to stay the night. Pedro tells me you should stay the night because the next bus that's going to take you back to Panama City leaves at 7:40 p.m., which is, again, it's like 3 o'clock now. So that's 4.5 hours. Plus, it gets dark at 6 p.m. So I don't have anywhere to just sit and wait in the center of Cologne for 4.5 hours. I would have to explore or walk around for that time. And again, he tells me that that's not wise, that's not dangerous, especially being a foreigner, especially being there at night. So in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I'm in trouble. Like, I need to figure out how to get out of here because I don't want to spend the night. I want to get back to Panama City, but at the same time, I don't want to be unsafe and sit out there and wait at that bus stop. I'm not sure how much a taxi is going to be to drive me all the way an hour and a half back to the city. Money's not an option, but I was considering all these things. I was considering getting an Uber. But again, Pedro now has taken the responsibility of being my guide. So We get off the bus stop. We get off the bus stop. As soon as we get off the bus stop, again, people can say like, yeah, if you just walk a certain way and act a certain way, you can blend in. I was not blending in at all. Like racially, I guess I was blending in, but when I got off the bus, I could see like a group of like maybe 6 women from like the ages of like 20 to 35, sitting at the like sitting on a bank of like a stairway, some steps, but like a little bank on the side of the street, and they're just looking at me like this, like they're looking at me like he's not from out here. Like who is he? A lot of people were looking at me like that. The only thing that saved me in the beginning, okay, in the beginning, a lot of people were looking at me like that. What saved me though is I'm sitting here talking with Pedro, and Pedro has that parla panameña. Like he really is speaking that coastal, that Caribbean Spanish, and he and I are sitting there talking. So I think that kind of hid me a little bit from any suspicions of being a foreigner. Pedro and I proceed to get in a taxi, and Pedro takes me maybe 5 to 10 minutes away from the center of Cologne, and we go to a seafood restaurant. They attend to us, we go and sit down. Pedro tells the waitress, like, yeah, I'm bringing you guys a tourist from Jamaica. He wants to try this, that, and the third. Guys, when I tell you, I'm not a foodie. I'm not a foodie. I can eat the same thing every day and I don't care. I eat food for nourishment more than taste. I like good food, I guess, but I'm not a foodie. So for me to even say this, it's a lot. This was the best seafood I think I've ever had. I really think so. Like, with the exception of a place that used to be in Atlanta that's closed down. On the west side of Atlanta, they had a very good seafood place. But either way, this was the best seafood I've ever had. Like, so I'm sitting there eating good. I'm starting to think, okay, this decision to go to Cologne was a good idea. I'm eating good food, eating, I don't know, just a lot of different, like guisos, like just a lot of different food. I'm eating that. Pedro and I are talking. I'm talking to the waitress. I'm talking to the owner of the restaurant. Everything's going amazing. So as we leave the restaurant, Pedro guides me to the hotel. Pedro also guides me to a pharmacy because I was asking Pedro like, ¿cómo se puede conseguir agua aquí? He's like, yeah. Where can I go to get water here? I don't know anything that's going on. But again, Pedro's like, look, I'm gonna take you to the hotel. I'm gonna show you some of the things around this area, and then after that, I'm gone. You got it on your own. We exchanged numbers. He's like, if anything happens, let me know. He actually takes me to an ATM because I didn't have any cash on me other than the $40. So at this point, I'm trusting Pedro, to be honest. I'm trusting Pedro. I'm not an idiot. I'm very perceptive. So I could tell that plus the man has $3,000 in his pocket. Like what can he do with, like he's not broke. He's not struggling tremendously to casually be able to pull out $3,000 from his pocket. And so either way, he shows me all these places. We go to the hotel, and at this point, I'm having second thoughts. Like at this point, I'm not gonna lie, guys. At this point, I'm a little uncomfortable because as Pedro and I are walking, there are a lot of, and I'm not trying to characterize everyone in this area like this. I met some cool people, some great people, like, but I did see some characters, like some knucklehead energy. I got some mean mugs. I got some looks of like that. I could feel that. Again, my intuition was telling me like, this is a little un poco caliente. Like, it's un poco caliente. Like, I can feel it. And so, long story short, let me focus. Long story short, we go to the hotel. At this point, I have not made my mind up on whether or not I'm going to stay in the hotel again. I can feel Pedro's good intentions, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't want to be in a random hotel in Cologne overnight. Then I'll have to wake up in the morning. I don't have clothes. I don't have anything to take care of myself with. I have to go to the pharmacy and get toothpaste and a toothbrush and soap and all that. I just don't want to deal with the inconvenience. I want to go back to Panama City. But Pedro, at this point, we're in the hotel. Pedro is like insisting. He's like, no, stay the night. I'm like, Pedro, like, I can figure it out. Like, I appreciate Pedro, but let me think for a second. Let me sit here and figure it out. Pedro's insisting, almost like he won't leave unless I stay the night in the hotel. And so at this point, I'm a little concerned. I don't know. Again, I'm not an idiot. I'm not a genius, but I'm not an idiot. I don't know if Pedro, because everywhere we're going, people know him. I don't know if Pedro's going to get a little kickback from bringing a tourist to this hotel on a low end, on the worst case, at the at the worst, and again, this is not anything against Panamanians. I would think the same way about somebody in Atlanta that was so dead set on me doing something. I'm thinking like, is Pedro trying to set me up out here? Like, why is it so serious that I stay at this hotel? Again, he could just be prioritizing my safety, or we have to be critical thinkers, or he gets a kickback because he knows the people at this hotel. He did tell me he had stayed at that hotel before for some shiesty reasons that I'll mention in a second. And let me not judge. Let me not judge. Let me not judge for reasons that I personally would not stay there for. And so again, all these things are running through my head. Again, in the moment, I'm trying to figure out what's going on. Plus, I know these characters outside have been me mugging me, and they see that I'm walking in and out of a hotel at this point. Okay, who walks in and out of a hotel? If you're from Cologne, why would you be going into the hotel like that? Especially when they can already look at me and kind of see something different. And why am I assuming that? Because of the looks that I was getting as Pedro is guiding me through the city, going like, sí, por allá está la farmacia, por allá se ve, like, okay? So again, the context. I ended up cracking and folding in the moment. So the night at this hotel was maybe like $40. So to get my bearings, I basically tell the receptionist like, yeah, I'll stay the night. Like, yeah, let me pay for a night. So I pay for a night at this hotel. Pedro, I'm not gonna name the hotel because I'm not trying to get in any trouble. But Pedro, and let me leave the hotel staff out of it. Pedro basically proceeds to tell me like, yeah, man, like now that you got this hotel, I'm nothing against it, but I don't drink. So he's like, I'm gonna send some alcohol up for you. I'm gonna send you some chicas. I don't participate in that either. That's not something I do. So he's like, yeah, I'm gonna send you some alcohol. I'm gonna send you some chicas. I'm gonna send you something else that is accompanied with that type of stuff that you all can think about. I'm not gonna mention it. I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble. And so basically, I'm like, yeah, this is not my vibe. I need to get out of here. Okay, and even I'm not gonna say there's I'm downplaying this. There's even more that was happening, way more that was happening that I can't discuss on YouTube. But I will. Again, I'm not trying to sell the course, guys. Don't join the course if you don't want to. But those of you that do want to and do want to know this and do want to learn Spanish and do want to, have live streams with me and interact with me and take group trips, I'm going to discuss this in more detail in that course because I'm leaving stuff out. Details that I just can't post on a public platform. But either way, they're offering me all these things, and I'm just like, all right, y'all stay the night. But in the back of my mind at this point, I'm like, I'm going to get out of here. Like, I'm going to get out of here at some point. So I go upstairs. I act like I'm putting my things up there. I had a book bag. I put my book bag in the room, but I take all of my personal items out and put them in my pocket. So now I have a $600, $700 camera in my pocket. I have an iPhone 11 in my pocket, which is not new. It's old, but whatever. Still, it's a thing. I have my card that has access to my bank accounts in my pocket. I have cash in my pocket, maybe like $150. And I'm walking around the streets of the center of Colón, Panama, which again, depending on who you ask, is safe. Depending on who you ask, is unsafe, especially for a tourist at around 5 o'clock at this point. Guys, Pedro tells me, Chico, Mike, me voy, tengo que irme para ir a este sitio, whatever. He tells me he needs to go to this different part of Colón. I'm like, all right, Pedro, cuídate, muchas gracias por todo. Like he gives me a handshake, we hug a little bit, and then he goes. I start walking down these streets. Now, what made me optimistic was that like police, security guards, and some people on the street were just greeting me as if I was somebody from there. Like they were just saying like the equivalent of what's up in Spanish. They were saying to me, just giving me head nods as I'm walking through. I had that experience contrasted with, again, people sitting in chairs, sitting back, looking at me like this. Now, I don't know if if that's something that everybody gets as they walk by. That could be the reality, certain neighborhoods, people just mug or scowl at strangers. So that could be the case, but I'm not gonna guess. I mean, sorry, that could have been the case, or it could have been the case of like, who is this dude that I never see walking around here looking like he's not from here? Like, who is this? That's what I got from it. Who is this? And so I'm walking back and forth down the street. I'm going to different little areas on the main road, not the main road of Cologne, but the main road where my hotel is. And again, every time I come in and out of the hotel, there are people on the other side of the street just kind of staring like, who is that? Okay. So again, I'm on alert. This culminated in this. Again, remember, I got to the bus station at like 1 o'clock. I have not eaten since this time. It's probably around like 5 o'clock now. Not a super long time, but whatever. I haven't eaten anything, and I have not had any water. So I'm like, I need to get some water at the very least. I'm sorry, I had eaten, but I had eaten at the seafood place, but I was just really thirsty, okay? I think I got like a little small cup of water. So I was thirsty, so I was like, let me go to the pharmacy and get some water. Here's where I knew in this moment I had made the wrong decision and I needed to leave. I'm aware, I'm aware that as I proceed to say this, some of you are immediately ready to gaslight me in the comments. I hate to use super trendy words like that, but that's what it will be. Like, Mike, you're over exaggerating. You're overthinking this. Bro, like, they just probably are just like that in general out there. Nothing was going to happen to you. That's fine if you believe that. When I get these feelings, I protect my safety and I get out of there. And the reason why, and I'm going to explain what feelings I got, but the reason why I don't play around with these things, or when I get this intuition or this feeling, I don't just ignore it and think the best. I think the worst when my safety is at risk is because I've had instances where I had the same intuitive feeling, the same feeling of something bad is about to happen. This is unsafe, and they have led to me seeing shootings. I'm being honest. They have led to me having a gun pointed at me. I'm being honest. The same feeling that I got before those traumatic incidents is the same feeling that I got in this pharmacy. So let me tell you what happened in this pharmacy. Again, some of you are going to be like, no, that wasn't the case. Nothing was going to happen to you. Whatever. Okay? Next time, if this happens to you, just stay and see what happens. Okay? So I walk into the pharmacy. The pharmacy is L-shaped. Okay? So like, it's L-shaped. I'm looking at a bunch of medications, and then the cash register is on the shorter part of the letter L. Again, so I'm looking at the longer part, and then to the side is a little shorter section of the pharmacy that's like in the shape of an L, and back here is where the cash register is. There's a woman behind the cash register, had to be like maybe 28 to 30 years old. Um, Super fair skinned, like Latina woman, but all pink hair. Not that it matters, I'm just giving you a description. And I walk up and I say, "Ustedes tienen agua? Ustedes tienen una botella de agua?" If you're a Spanish speaker, please let me know if I said that incoherently. Again, I walk up, I say, "Buenas tardes. Ustedes tienen una botella de agua? Tienen una botella de agua? Tienen botellas de agua?" I said some version of that the exact same way. She looks at me and she's like, "Huh?" She's like, almost, I know it's counterintuitive, but she's like angry but smiling at the same time. Huh? ¿Qué? And I'm like, "Ustedes tienen una botella de agua? Tienen agua aquí?" Huh? And she's like, huh? Huh? But she's like, it's almost as if, so she's like laughing, but being rude. But like, it's almost as if she's trying to extend our interaction. Like, I'm simply asking, "Ustedes tienen una botella de agua?" And she's saying, huh, over and over again, as if she doesn't hear me. And again, in retrospect, what it felt like was like she was trying to delay the interaction, okay? As soon as this happens, I start to, let me go back. So she finally says like, "Sí, tenemos agua," like that with a little attitude, like, "Sí, tenemos agua. ¿Qué tamaño quieres?" And so she shows me the different sizes, and guys, I turn to my left. When I turn to my left to go towards the cash register, okay, I look back, and there are two, what I describe them as when I see them in Atlanta, and I'm not judging people, but guys, come on, can I just be honest? Can I just be honest, please? I see two knuckleheads, like mischievous characters, bad energy, bad vibe people. And why am I saying that? Again, I'll describe what they look like in a second, but again, I look back, okay, and they're looking at me, these two guys like this. They're probably no older than like 21. They're like in between 21 to 25. One has a bunch of face tattoos, a piercing here, like, I don't know. Again, I'm not saying face tattoos means you're a criminal, but I'm just saying their energy along with su pinta, like I'm familiar with la pinta mala, right? So, and they walk in and they're looking at me like this, like they're looking at me with a very aggressive stance. They're looking me up and down. And again, at this point, I'm in the corner of the L-shaped pharmacy. They're kind of at the door, so there's no way I'm leaving here without passing through them. I'm like this. I'm not showing it, but I'm like this. I'm like, oh yeah, this is gonna be, this is gonna be where I get robbed. Like this is where a lack of judgment is gonna turn into something bad. Because again, they're me mugging me, but me mugging me in a way where it's just like they're about to approach me and something bad is gonna happen. Again, I know some of you are gonna be like, this is all in your head. Fine. What I don't want this to happen, but if this were to happen to you, I'm sure you would understand what I'm saying here. And so I quickly, as quick as I can, make this transaction with the lady, the other lady who helps me pay for the water. And I turn around, and again, both of them are me mugging, but now the second one, he looks down, he looks at me like this, like he looks at me like that, looks down at his phone, like he looks at me like this, looks down at his phone, and then as I'm trying to walk past them, behind them, to leave the store, again, L-shaped pharmacy, I was at the shorter end of the L. I'm now walking past them, or attempting to walk past them to get out of the door. As I try to walk past, this one right here, the one on his phone, backs up like this as I'm walking and tries to like kind of corner me in while the other one walks through. Guys, I'm not gonna say I ran, but I did the quickest one of these movements like this, like ooh, like that. And then as soon as I got to that door, I didn't run, I didn't sprint, but I got out of there as fast as I could. Like I literally got out of there as fast as I could. Didn't look at anyone. Ran back, not ran, but got back to my hotel, went up those stairs, got my book bag, told the lady at the register, told the receptionist like, hey, I have something to do at Panama City in the morning at like 7 a.m. I just realized I have to do it. I'm not gonna stay the night. You guys can keep the money, whatever. And so at that point, I'm like, what are my options? I can call a taxi, call an Uber. I call an Uber. I think it was maybe like $60 or $70 to get back to Panama City. I think at the end it cost like 80 because of traffic and time or something. I don't remember. But either way, I got in a taxi and got myself back to Panama City immediately. Not sure if that story was anticlimactic. Not sure if you guys are going to perceive that as an over-exaggeration. I'm not sure if you're going to say the title here was clickbaity. But I do need to let you know that this adventurous nature and all this kind of stuff, it's cool. And it is cool to feel empowered when you are able to use a language and get around. Because again, I would not have been able to even get to Cologne. I would not have had the amazing experience of spending time with Pedro and going to the restaurant and just having this story. In retrospect, it's fun that it's fun that I had this quote unquote dangerous story, that I have this dangerous story to tell, but it could have gone very bad. Again, I know, again, I'm aware some of you are going to be like, bro, you're exaggerating. Like, it wasn't that deep. But I know negative energy. I can perceive it very well, and I can perceive if I'm getting looked at, me mugged, and then almost attempted to be cornered into a pharmacy. Yeah, I'm not saying I'm going to leave. Again, this is not indicative of all of that city, okay? This is just a specific part that I was in at the wrong time by myself without using any knowledge or not having foresight in terms of planning a visit to a city like that. So I hope you guys don't find this video to be offensive. It's not intended to be. I could tell you bad things that have happened in my own city. It's not an indication of the city in itself. So I'm not trying to paint Cologne a certain way. I'm just telling you guys what happened. I'm being honest in my experience because I've never had an experience like this in any country that I've gone to. And I think it's because I've been a little bit more hesitant in terms of where I've gone. Or if I've gone to areas that maybe weren't the safest, I've always gone with a local guide or someone from the city. So just wanted to let you guys know this. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know if you think I'm lying. Let me know if you think I'm exaggerating. But my intuition has never failed me, and I'm glad I listened to it this time instead of trying to play it cool and nothing would have happened. I'm not even going to risk it. So let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys in the next one.